You're looking at this car right now, and your brain is probably telling you one thing. This has to be a Tesla. The design, the shape, the futuristic look, everything about it screams high-end electric vehicle. But here's the twist no one saw coming. This car doesn't come from Silicon Valley. It doesn't come from China either. It comes from India. And not only that, it starts at around just $21,000. Yeah, let that sink in. Because what you're seeing here isn't just a new electric car. This might be the moment the entire EV market quietly started shifting, and most people didn't even notice. But to understand why this changes everything, you have to go back to where it all started. Tata Motors wasn't always the giant people talk about today. In fact, the foundation of the entire Tata empire was laid by Jamsetji Tata, a man who wasn't just thinking about business, he was thinking about building a nation. Steel, hotels, infrastructure. Tata didn't jump into cars overnight. They built slowly, carefully, and most importantly, with patience. That patience is what makes them different. Because while most companies chase quick profits, Tata plays a long game. And that long game is exactly why they ended up owning brands like Jaguar Land Rover, giving them global credibility almost overnight. But here's where things get interesting. Just a few years ago, Tata Motors was struggling. Losses, doubts, uncertainty. And then something changed. While the rest of the world was still debating whether EVs were the future, Tata wasn't debating anything. They were building, quietly creating supply chains, investing in batteries, preparing infrastructure. No hype, no noise, just strategy. And by the time the world realized EVs were inevitable, Tata was already ahead in one very specific way. They understood something others didn't. But to really see that, you have to look at the global EV market. Right now, two names dominate almost every conversation: Tesla and BYD. Tesla made EVs aspirational, fast, futuristic, premium. They didn't just sell cars, they sold a vision. On the other hand, BYD played a completely different game. Mass production, lower cost, practicality. Two completely different strategies, both incredibly successful, but both had the same problem. They never truly solved affordability for the average person. And the reason is simple: the battery. Nearly 30 to 40% of an EV's cost comes from the battery alone. And building those batteries isn't cheap. Lithium, cobalt, nickel, rare materials, expensive extraction, complex processing, and then on top of that, you add software, R&D, charging networks, logistics, and suddenly, what should be a simple car becomes a $40,000 purchase. That's why even today, a lot of people still hesitate. Not because EVs aren't good, but they're not practical for everyone. And that created a gap, a very specific gap, a space where people wanted something that looked premium, felt advanced, but didn't destroy their budget. And for years, that gap just sat there, empty, until Tata stepped in. Now look at the Tata Curve EV. The first thing you notice isn't the price, it's the design. This isn't a boxy, traditional SUV. The rear slopes down like a coupe. The body looks aerodynamic. The lighting feels like it belongs in the future. This is what's called a coupe SUV, a mix of sportiness and practicality. And that's important, because for a long time, buyers in markets like India focused on space, mileage, and basic function. But that's changing. The new generation wants something more. They want presence, they want style, they want something that stands out. And Tata saw that shift early. That's why the Curve EV doesn't just look like a car. It looks like a statement. But here's the part that doesn't make sense. How do you offer something that looks this premium at almost half the price of competitors? That's where Tata flips the entire game. Most companies make one of two choices: either go premium and charge more, or go cheap and remove features. Tata did neither. Instead, they changed the positioning. They didn't aim for ultra-luxury. They didn't aim for entry-level. They targeted the middle, the sweet spot, where demand is massive, but competition is surprisingly weak. And then they backed that up with something even smarter: cost control, without cutting quality. Local manufacturing played a huge role. Instead of relying heavily on imports, Tata built and sourced components within India. That alone reduces massive costs. But it doesn't stop there. The Tata Group itself includes companies that produce steel, electronics, and critical components. So instead of depending on external suppliers, they control a big part of their own ecosystem. That means fewer middlemen, lower costs, more efficiency. And suddenly, the impossible starts looking possible. But even that isn't the real secret. The real secret lies underneath the car. What makes the Chery EV truly different is something most people never even see. The platform. Tata calls it the Gen 2 EV platform. Now that might sound technical, but here's what it really means. Most car companies take an existing petrol or diesel car, remove the engine, and replace it with a battery. It works, but it comes with compromises, space issues, weight imbalance, reduced efficiency. Tata didn't do that. They built this car from the ground up as an EV. That changes everything. The battery sits flat under the floor. That lowers the center of gravity, which means better stability, better handling, more control. The car feels planted, even at higher speeds. And because everything is designed specifically for electric performance, power delivery becomes smooth. No jerks, no delay, just clean acceleration. But here's the part most people overlook: safety. In an EV, the battery is the most sensitive component. If it gets damaged, things can go very wrong. So Tata built a protective structure around it, almost like a shield. In case of impact, the force gets absorbed before it reaches the battery. And combined with Tata's already strong reputation for safety, that builds something even more powerful: trust. But there's another layer to this. The platform is modular, meaning one base can be used to build multiple cars. So instead of spending billions on R&D for every new model, you spend once and reuse. That dramatically reduces cost over time, and that's how you keep prices low, without sacrificing quality. But none of this works without the heart of the car. The battery. In an EV, the battery is everything: range, power, performance. And Tata knew this had to be done right. The Chery EV uses a lithium-ion battery, just like most modern EVs. But the difference is in optimization. India has extreme conditions: heat, dust, long driving hours. So the battery isn't just built, it's adapted. Now let's talk about range. Around 400 to 500 kilometers on a full charge. Think about that for a second. If you drive 30 to 40 kilometers a day, you're not charging every day anymore. That's where EVs start becoming practical. But range alone isn't enough. Heat is the real enemy. And this is where thermal management comes in. A system that keeps the battery at the right temperature, whether you're driving in extreme heat or using fast charging. This not only improves safety, it extends battery life. And then comes charging. Fast charging can take you from low to a significant level in about 30 to 60 minutes. And home charging, overnight. Simple, convenient, flexible. But here's the hidden concern everyone has: battery degradation. Over time, all batteries lose some capacity. But Tata has designed this system to remain stable for years and backed it with warranty and reliability. So that fear slowly disappears. But even after all this, there's still one question left. Why should global giants care? Because this isn't just about India anymore. If the Chery EV succeeds, it doesn't stay local. It goes global. And that's where things start getting uncomfortable for competitors. Tesla dominates the premium segment. BYD dominates mass production. But Tata? Tata is attacking the space in between, and that's dangerous. Because if a buyer can get something that feels like a Tesla at nearly half the price, what do you think they'll choose? That creates pressure. Tesla may have to rethink pricing in certain markets. BYD may have to rethink design and brand perception. And beyond that, something even bigger starts happening. The supply chain shifts. Until now, China has dominated EV manufacturing. But if India rises as a production hub, the entire global balance changes. Lower labor costs, growing infrastructure, government support, and suddenly, India isn't just a consumer market. It becomes an exporter. Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, even parts of Europe. The ripple effect could be massive. But Tata didn't stop at hardware. They added one more layer: technology. Modern EVs aren't just cars anymore. They're connected devices, and Tata understands that. Inside the Chery EV, you get a large touchscreen that controls almost everything: navigation, climate, vehicle settings. But unlike Tesla, Tata doesn't make everything dependent on software. They keep a balance, because not every user wants a car that feels like a smartphone. They want simplicity, reliability, and that's exactly what Tata delivers. Then there's ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, lane assist, emergency braking, adaptive cruise control. Features that used to exist only in luxury cars are now becoming accessible. And then connectivity. Through your phone, you can check battery levels, lock status, even turn on the AC before you enter the car. That's convenience on a different level. But here's the key difference. Tata isn't trying to impress with flashy tech. They're solving real problems. And that's what makes this entire strategy so powerful. So when you look at the Tata Chery EV, don't just see a car. See what it represents. A company that didn't rush but prepared. A product that didn't cut corners but removed inefficiencies. A strategy that doesn't just compete but challenges the entire system. Because this isn't about beating Tesla. It's not about competing with BYD. It's about changing what people expect from an EV. And once expectations change, the entire market follows. So the real question isn't whether this car will succeed. The real question is, what happens if it does? Because if it does, this might not just be another EV launch. This could be the moment the rules of the game quietly changed forever.